Because of bad weather, I found out that my wife was cheating on me. So I could start the divorce process, she got drunk and hurt herself. For the past year, my life has taken so many strange turns that I'm still not sure what's going on. I guess I should begin with the beginning. In our second year at State University, Melanie and I met. We both studied business, but we met in an art history class for everyone. I remember being amazed by how sure of herself she was and how she always had smart things to say when we were talking. We began to study together. Our relationship quickly grew into something more. Melanie grew up in the suburbs with a wealthy family. Robert, her dad, ran a successful building business, and Linda, her mom, was a high-end real estate agent. They always took fancy trips and lived in a beautiful house with a pool. They loved Melanie very much because she was their only child. My background was very different. I grew up in an area with lots of poor people. As a child, I knew my dad Jim, who ran a small car repair shop. My mom, Karen, taught first grade. My parents worked hard to take care of me and my younger sister. We didn't have a lot of extra money. Melanie and I were brought together by our shared goals even though we came from different backgrounds. It was our dream to move up in the company and become famous in the business world. We pushed each other to do well in school and our jobs. We both got entry-level jobs at marketing firms in the city after we graduated. In the beginning of our jobs, we worked long hours, went to a lot of events to meet new people, and steadily moved up the ranks. 2 years after college, we got married in a beautiful wedding that mixed the traditions of both of our families. Melanie's folks gave us a big down payment on a house in a nice suburb close to where she grew up as a gift. Even though my parents couldn't give us money, they helped us move in and my dad fixed up and improved the house a lot. The first few years of our marriage were busy but fun. We both cared a lot about our jobs and often worked late and brought work home on the weekends. We always made time for each other though, whether it was going to new places in the city or going to nearby towns on the weekends. As our 5th wedding anniversary got closer, we began to talk about having children. We both felt like we were doing well in our jobs and had enough money to live on. We agreed to start trying again after our Hawaii honeymoon trip. Now that I think about it, that's when things began to change. Melanie seemed farther away and busy. She worked later than usual and went out more often with coworkers. When I asked her about it, she said she was busy with a big job that might get her promoted. I did my best not to worry. Melanie was always driven, and I wanted to help her reach her work goals. Also, there was a lot of trust between us from the start of our friendship. Melanie had a romance in college where she was cheated on, and she often talked about how miserable it was. She never crossed my mind that she would betray someone that badly. A work trip to meet with possible clients on the West Coast was planned for about a month before our anniversary trip. There was going to be a nice dinner planned for Melanie and me the night before I left for a week-long trip. When I got to the airport on the day of my trip, I learned that the plane was having hardware problems. The flight was finally canceled after being delayed for several hours. I chose to go home because I was annoyed and also a little excited to surprise Melanie. I got flowers and a bottle of wine at the store because I thought we could still have our nice dinner. As I pulled up to our house, I saw a strange car in the driveway. I thought maybe one of Melanie's coworkers was dropping her off. I heard sounds coming from upstairs as I walked into the house. My heart started beating fast as I went up the stairs, and with each step I felt more and more afraid. Mel's voice and a man's voice I didn't know were both there when I got to our bedroom door. As soon as I walked into the room, what I saw broke my world. Melanie was with a man I had never seen before in our bed. They both looked shocked and scared as they rushed to hide themselves. I was too scared to think or breathe. Melanie was calling my name behind me, but I just turned around and left. I got in my car and drove, but I didn't know where I was going. After getting lost, I found a park where Melanie and I used to have picnics when we first moved to the neighborhood. As I sat there, I thought about the good times we had together. The first time we met, it rained while we were at a college football game. When I asked her to marry me, it was at sunset on the beach in Florida. When I saw Melanie walk down the aisle at our wedding, I thought my heart would burst with joy. How could she do that? How long had it been going on? Was everything about our marriage a lie? I don't remember how long I sat there, but when I finally got home, it was dark. Melanie was ready for me. She had tears in her eyes, making them red and puffy. She started to say sorry and explain, saying it was a mistake. It had only happened a few times. I heard that the man was one of her clients on her big project. She said that they had been flirting late at night at work, and one thing led to another. She said it didn't matter and that she still loved me. But her words didn't stick with me. In our bed, all I could think about was seeing her with another guy. The bed where we shared our hopes and goals, comforted each other on bad days, and made plans for our future family. Mel asked me to have some space and tell her to spend some time with her parents. To give her another chance, she begged me, but I couldn't even look at her without getting sick. The weeks that followed were a blur. To avoid coming home to an empty house, I worked hard and stayed at the office until late at night. Melanie and her family called and texted me, but I didn't answer. When my parents heard what happened, they were very angry. My mom had always been wary of Melanie because she thought she was spoiled and used me too easily. People I work with and my friends knew something was wrong, but I just couldn't talk about it. Why could I say that the woman I thought I knew so well had lied to me so completely? I began meeting with a divorce lawyer to learn about my choices. It broke my heart to think about ending my marriage, but I didn't know how to move on after such a huge breach of trust. I saw Melanie with that other man every time I closed my eyes. As news of our breakup spread, people were shocked. People always thought of us as the ideal pair, like we knew everything. At work, I put on a strong face, but I was in tears. I lost a lot of weight quickly because I couldn't eat or sleep right. Melanie kept trying to get in touch with me and would say sorry or get mad that I wouldn't talk to her. Her folks called and asked me to think about marriage counseling. But I wasn't even ready to think about making things right. I began seeing a therapist to help me deal with my feelings. It was somewhat helpful. I still felt lost, though. The future I had imagined with Melanie, where we would have kids and get old together, was over. Without her, I had no idea who I was. Seeing that was almost as painful as the deception itself. Now that I think about it, there were probably signs I missed. Melanie was more careful with her phone now. For work, she started getting dressed up and putting on more makeup. But I was always proud of the fact that I wasn't a suspicious or jealous husband. I had put all my faith in her, and she used that trust against him. As the weeks went by, we started to understand how bad things really were. We had to start talking about how to split up our property and what to do with our house. It hurt to see the life we had built together turn into cold courtroom battles. I'm still not sure why Melanie cheated. Did I not pay enough attention? Had she changed her mind about me? Or was she just lazy and selfish? It's possible that I will never know the whole truth. The woman I thought I knew better than anyone else turned out to be a stranger. That's all I know for now. Even though I still live in our house, it doesn't feel like home. Each room has memories that feel bad now. I'm trying to pay attention to my work and plan out the next steps in my life. But right now, everything just hurts and feels unsure. Add one more. Several months have passed since my last post, and things seem to have gotten even more complex. It's still hard for me to understand. What's happened? After the shock wore off, I was even more determined to get a divorce from Melanie. What she did hurt me, and I couldn't get over it, no matter how much she begged or how many times her parents tried to get in touch with me. I asked her in writing to leave our home and stay with her parents while we took care of the official parts of ending our marriage. Melanie wasn't happy about the news. She drank a lot, which was something she had never done before. She had at least a bottle of wine with dinner instead of just one glass. She started to do a worse job at work, so she was put on probation at her job. Her parents were so worried that they called me a lot to tell me what was going on with her and begged me to change my mind. Because I was in so much pain, I didn't really care about Melanie's progress. I thought she should suffer because of what she did to our marriage. I worked hard, taking on more work and staying late at work most nights. My boss understood what was going on and even hinted that I might get a raise if I kept up my hard work. I asked for a divorce about a month before this. I was working late at home one night when I heard noise outside. When I opened the front door, Melanie was clearly drunk on our porch. She was wobbling, had mascara on her face, and smelled like booze. As she pushed past me to get into the house, she cried and said she was sorry while also making angry charges. She said she felt ignored because I worked late every night and never had time for her. She said she cheated because she was lonely and didn't feel like anyone cared about her. She was crazy, and I tried to calm her down. She tipped over a lamp and broke it on the ground. She said I never really loved her, and that I cared more about my job than our marriage. Of course, it was all waste of time. I had always put our relationship first, but Melanie was drunk and couldn't be talked down. As she yelled, more information about her affair came out. It had been more than a few times, as she had first said. It had been going on for months. Through work, she and her client were able to spend the weekends in hotels while on business trips together. There was even talk of the two of them getting married. Every new thing I learned hurt my heart like a knife. When I kissed her goodbye before she left for a business trip, I didn't know she was going to meet her lover. It made me sick. There were many late nights when I worked and thought Melanie was doing the same, but she was actually with someone else. It took about an hour of this before I finally got Melanie to leave. I called her parents to let them know she was on her way home and to ask them to keep an eye on her. It was draining and mentally draining for me. I made a strong drink and sat in the dark, thinking about how my whole life had gone wrong. After a few hours, I got a call that really scared me. Melanie was in a car crash. She ran a red light and hit another car head-on. The other driver was fine, but Melanie was seriously hurt and had to be rushed to the hospital. My heart dropped no matter what. Though I was mad at Melanie, I never meant for this to happen to her. As I rushed to the hospital, the worst possible outcomes were going through my thoughts. When I got there, the doctors told me the terrible news. Melanie couldn't move from the waist down. They didn't know if she'd ever be able to walk again. It was almost too much to bear to think about my once active, lively wife being stuck in a wheelchair. Over the next few weeks, we went to the hospital a lot, talked to doctors, and had tough talks with our families. Melanie's parents were so sad and worried that they couldn't stand it. They begged me not to get divorced because Melanie needed me more than ever. My own parents had different feelings about it. My dad felt bad for them and said that no one should have to go through this. But my mom wasn't as willing to forgive. She had never been a big fan of Melanie's, and she saw this as Melanie having to deal with the results of her careless acts. She told me that Melanie had picked to drink and drive, just like she had picked to lie. Melanie tried to use her illness as an excuse for me to stay while she started her long healing process. She told me that she couldn't do physical rehab and get used to her new life without me. She said that I was partly to blame for her cheating because I wasn't paying enough attention, and now she was getting in trouble for it. I'll be honest, I felt bad about it. I thought about what I could have done to stop this from happening. Would Melanie have been less likely to cheat if I had been home more? She wants to get a divorce. If I agreed to work on our marriage instead, would she have turned to drinking? But I knew in my heart that Melanie's acts were her own choice. Even though her accident was terrible, it didn't take away the pain of being betrayed, the months of dishonesty and lies. The people in our homes tried to help us work things out. Melanie's folks said they would pay for couples therapy. My dad suggested that we take a break to get our minds off of things before making a final choice. But my mom was sure that I shouldn't waste my life caring for someone who had lied to me so much. Everything about the situation was very hard on everyone concerned. Melanie's healing took a long time and was hard. Having this situation made her depressed and angry. She would beg me every day to give our marriage another chance. Sometimes she would lose it and blame me for everything that went wrong. It was hard for me to decide whether I should help her or move on with my life. I spent a lot of time at the hospital and rehab center with Melanie, helping her with her physical therapy and trying to be there for her mentally. But every time I looked at her, I thought about how she had lied to me. People I work with and my friends didn't know what to do. Some people thought it was cruel of me to think about divorce while Melanie was so hurt. Others understood my situation and agreed with my choice to leave. It seemed like everyone had an idea of what I should do. As I tried to care for Melanie and do my job at the same time, my work started to suffer. The hint at a raise looked like it was going to be lost. Running back and forth between the office, the hospital, and talks with lawyers made me tired all the time. As the weeks turned into months, I reached a turning point. Could I forgive Melanie for cheating on me since she had an accident? Or was this life's weird way of giving me a way out of a broken marriage? The weight of this choice was killing me. When it was quiet, I thought about the life Melanie and I had planned to live together. We were going to begin trying to have a child. We had talked about getting a mountain house for vacations. It looked like those dreams were from different people now. I'm taking things one day at a time for now. While she is still in the rehab center, Melanie is getting used to her new life. Our house still feels more like an exhibit of our failed marriage than a home to me, but I'm still living there. The divorce process has been put on hold while we figure out how to care for Melanie in the long run. I have no idea what will happen next. I sometimes feel like I can get over being lied to and be there for Melanie while she heals. Sometimes the hurt and anger are just as fresh in my mind as the day I found out she was having an affair. Being patient with myself and not making hasty choices is killing me, but I can't help it. That's the situation right now. I'm still not sure what to do because I feel obligated to Melanie and I also need to take care of my own needs. I don't think there is a right answer because it's not possible. I just hope that one day I'll be okay with whatever choice I make. This is my second report. It's been about 6 months since my last one, and I've finally decided to move on with my life. It took me a lot of soul-searching and hard talks, but I finally got a divorce. I knew it was the right choice for me, even though it wasn't easy. Melanie's accident and subsequent injury were terrible, but they didn't take away the pain of her betrayal or fix the problems in our relationship. The breakup process was messy and hard on everyone involved. The parents of Melanie tried to make me look bad for leaving their daughter when she needed help. My family was split up. My dad told me to think about it again, but my mom fully backed my choice to leave. We came to an agreement that I thought was fair in the end. Melanie and I shared a lot of our assets, and I gave Melanie a big chunk of it to help pay for her ongoing hospital bills and rehab costs. To make sure she got the right care while she was healing, I also agreed to keep paying for her health insurance for a year. I helped Melanie move back in with her parents after the breakup was over. They fixed up their house so that it could be accessed by a wheelchair and promised to help her get better and get used to her new life. It made me feel better to know that she would be taken care of, even if it wasn't by me. It was one of the worst days of my life when I dropped Melanie off at her parents' house. Even with everything that had happened, we had many happy memories together over the years. It hurt to say goodbye to that part of my life. But I knew it had to be done. I put all of my energy into my work after the breakup. My boss was understanding the whole time, and he even offered me a raise that would require me to move to a different city to work for our company. When I got the chance to start over, I jumped at it. It was both exciting and scary to move to a new city. I had to leave behind the friends and family who had been there for me during the rough past year. However, I saw it as a chance to start over and make a new life my own way. It was hard to get used to my new place for the first few months. As I tried to show myself in my new job and stay away from the past, I worked long hours. On the weekends, I got to know my new neighborhood and tried to connect with people from work and across the street. I began to feel like myself again little by little. I went to the gym and got in shape again. I got into new things like rock climbing and taking pictures. There were even a few date nights, but I wasn't ready for anything serious yet. I still think about Melanie sometimes and wonder how she's doing with her healing, but not as often as I used to. It's okay with me that our time together is over, and now I'm writing the next part of my story. My family has been happy for me with my move and new life. Especially my mom is glad to see me getting better and moving on. My dad has also changed his mind. He now knows that sticking with Melanie out of guilt would not have been good for anyone. This whole thing has taught me a lot about being strong and taking care of myself. I've learned that putting my own happiness and health first is okay, even if other people think less of me for it. I'm not the same person I was a year ago, but I think this has made me better. As I get used to my new life, I'm mostly positive about what the future holds. I will always remember how painful it was when Melanie betrayed me and how terrible it was when things got worse afterward. But it doesn't make me who I am. I'm very excited to see what comes next.